Welcome back, everybody. We seem to have had a really good break between this video and last video. And really quickly, what I want to do is just sort of recap where we left off. Um, First off, we did some security work, but at the end of the last video, what I started to do was build out these different categories. Okay, and when I click on these categories, for example, I've got nothing going on because I haven't actually finished that part. And as you can see, I'm logged in as an admin and I've got access to categories and products, but I could also do shop here. And the one thing that I did before I started recording this video is just for illustration purposes only, is that I started to build out a bunch of different products. Okay, and these are not royalty-free products. This, is only for educational purposes only. Okay, this is not, I'm not actually selling this stuff online. So you can see I've got some brand names on there, but uh, anyway, I took the liberty of building out some of these different products just for illustration purposes. So what I do want to do is I want to go back to, I want to start building out some of this stuff. So in this video, in the next one, we're going to start building out our shopping cart. And this is where we left off last time. So this is naturally the place to begin to start building out that shopping cart. So we're in this position here, and I'm logged in under as an admin, and I've done the shop here. And when I go to click on one of my categories, I'm getting this error. And it's because when we go to our shop controller, okay, so I'm in my shop controller over here. We actually haven't given it anywhere to go. Okay, and this is something in the very first video that we did work on, and I took it out. I could have saved it or whatever, it doesn't matter. But what I want to do is create that method to go back in here. And what you're seeing is it's just, it's just simply this browse method. Okay, and we were passing in this category string. We've got the view bag here equals category, and then we're returning a view. But then the next thing that we're obviously going to need is this view. Okay, and the view bag. So this is what it looks like. This is what we did last in the very first video. We put this in there. And just for a quick review, if you're in your shop controller and you're saying, okay, I need to go to a new view, because as you know, when we have this return view line, we actually have to be able to return a view. Okay, so it's navigating from our controller to a view. So you can go to your shop and click on your shop view, right click on it, add a view, and you can choose between razor view or empty view. I just selected empty. Okay, and add, and then just give it a name. And I called mine browse. Okay, so I'll cancel that because I've already done it. And when I go to my browse view, it's just, I'm doing a quick check that says if the view bag is empty, or if it's not null, or sorry, if it's got something populated in it, then go ahead and post all the view bag items. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and save that, and I'll show you how that looks. Okay, go back to here. And by the way, just so you know, I've got my Azure actually turned on. Okay. I had to turn it on before I started working on the site so that I could test it out. And I'll shut all that stuff off. So as I get into here and I've refreshed it, if I go to breakfast, what I get is just, it takes me to this browse category equals breakfast. So if I go back, I'll go to meat. Notice there's nothing populated in here. It's just taking me to the meat category from in my browse view. Okay, and that's made possible by this view bag line item here. Okay. Really quickly, just for the sake of review, it's important to note that, looking at my syntax, I've got category right here. And just so you understand that that is actually associated with my models category. Okay, so we're viewing categories out of the models. Okay, and then you've got this view bag that is going to reference items that are actually right in this line here. And then you're just going to call this view function or method, sorry. Okay, and then it's going to just cycle through and output those different items in the category model. Okay. So we do need to make some changes to this. Okay, and I'm gonna give you a hint here. Okay, when we go to the actual website, let's say I'm in here, and let's say I go to bananas. Okay, and I want you to look at the URL. So I go to bananas, and look at the way the URL updates. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to this one here. Okay, look at what is changing in here. Okay, back to list. What else is there? Okay, what is it that keeps changing in here? Okay, so when I go back to this, we actually have to make an update to the browse method. So at this point, does it make sense that we're actually just passing in what? If I go to shop and I go to breakfast, what I'm currently doing is I'm passing in the name of the category. So the answer to this question actually is that we don't want the category right now. What we want is an int ID. Okay, because we're trying to get a product ID. Okay, so now what I do need to do, and we'll get to that error in a second, but for now what I'm going to do is I want to do a query products. Query products for the selected store. Category. Okay, so what's happening is we're actually, we're here, and let's see if it does it, because okay. We're here, I want to select all the categories that are, or all the products that are inside my category. Okay, so I'm trying to think of maybe snack foods and beverages. Okay, I think I have more than one item in there. Okay, so if I go to shop here, snack foods and beverages, I think I have some junk food in there. So what I want to do is just type in this line. Okay, this is var products. Okay, this context, which is from here, your application DB context, dot products dot where. Okay, and this is the fat arrow or your lambda. P is equal to greater than your fat arrow. P dot category ID equals ID. Okay, order by P equals, or this is your fat arrow, P dot product name, and then dot to list. Okay, and close out the to list method with the semicolon. Now I've got an issue, but I'll come back to that in a minute because there's something else that I want to do. Okay, so obviously we can't just go with that line and expect it to happen. We actually need to put all of that into our view, okay, because that's what we're going to be returning. Okay, so obviously I still have this issue with my category. This is clearly incomplete. So what I have to do is in here, I've got to, so I gotta get the name of the selected category, and then I'm going to do find, it's a method call only, and filter by key fields. Okay, the way I'm going to do this is I'll keep my category, and I'm actually going to go to the context, dot categories, again, dot find, and inside my find method, I'm going to find it by its ID. Okay, and then dot name, and then go to a toString and close out that method. So I've got this thing here, okay, and it says show potential fixes. Generate property product name, generate field, generate read only. So one thing I have an issue with is what I'm including right now. Okay, so I'm gonna go up to here and I'm gonna do a using, and I want to do Georgian groceries dot. Okay, and it now it's looking for me to. I've got options. So I want my models. Okay, that's one thing I definitely want for sure. Okay, and you can see that my error is not going away yet. Okay, and then the other thing that I want is I'm actually going to do using, and it's going to be Microsoft dot ASP core, and then dot HTTP. Okay, I want to put that in there. They were just missing, and I kind of felt that they were necessary to be in there. Now I've got my data in there, and I've got my MVC as well. So I'm going to just save that and go back down to my my product name. So the reason I left this here, and I want you to understand something about naming conventions. And, it makes sense to use the term product name because you're actually talking about the noun, the actual product in what it is, its description. It's a product name. And when you get a little bit sloppy with your naming conventions, you get into these kinds of errors. Okay, so when you go to my products controller, okay, my product, I've only ever used the word name. Okay, by rights, I probably should have called this product name. Okay, because what if I'm talking about category name or some other kind of a name? So you want to be really as descriptive as you possibly can. Okay, so when I go back to here, it's actually only name, but it's not very intuitive if you don't have really good naming conventions. So that's something to watch out for. And I wanted to leave that in there just to kind of prove that point. Okay. And you notice down here, I did the same thing. I've got name works, but this is what I'm matching up. Okay. So when we get to the actual browse view, okay, there is some things that we will have to do inside this, this file. And the first thing we want to do is let's go to the top. Okay, line 1, there's something that we have to do. So I need you to take a second, consider what we would have to do here. We have to give this file some indication or something to expect that when this line is called, that it already knows to expect something. I'll give you a hint. It's the first line of your product's homepage or product index. Okay. And it's this here. We need to have this line as well. So if I go back to here, I'm going to add that. And I think what I want to do though is actually, I'm going to put an H1 in there. And I think I'm going to say, just as a placeholder, I may change that message later. Okay, I'm going to save that. So this view is receiving a list of products from the controller method, okay? Really quickly, I want to go back to something here. And I'm in my shop view and my index CSHTML. Okay, so when we go back to our actual site, you see right here in this controller, I'm in shop and there's nothing after it, right? So this is the controller shop, but the action is this browse, okay? And this is really the reason I wanted to bring that up is because this is this exact function name right here that we're looking for. Okay, so I don't know that I went over that specifically in the beginning, but it's important that you understand that this index here is our shop. That's this view right here for shop. That's our home page for the shop view. Okay, that's right there. That's what this one is. But then this browse is that other view. And I wanted to be very specific about that and make sure that you were actually aware of that right now. However, this part does need to be updated, okay? So when we talk about being, in this particular file here, we're talking about this ASP controller shop, ASP action, which is now navigate to browse, which is this. Okay, but then we have to update this. We have to say this ASP route dash ID. Okay, and since we're using a for each, it's item. So we want at item in our category ID and then get the name. Okay, so that's an important step that we had to actually go in and update. So now that when we test that out, you can see breakfast. It says feel free to browse our products. We've got breakfast. Okay, if I go back, let's say snacks, snack food and beverages. Okay, so notice that I put all these things in these cards. And so I'm going to continue with that trend. And what I want to do is go into the index and take this entire section. Okay, I want that section again. So I'm going to highlight it, copy and paste it. The other thing you could have done is just close that whole thing up there. Highlight, copy, Control C. And now I want to go into my next view. So I will now go into my browse. And just below that, I'm going to paste that in there. Okay. And of course I have to go in and do some editing in here. First thing I'm going to do is change in my for loop. I'm going to actually change this to a P to represent products. Okay. And almost immediately I get two errors right here, which they just need to be changed to P, and this will be changed to P. Okay. And those errors go away. Okay, so I am in my index, back in the index file again. The other change I wanted to just double check and make sure you're certain is that you understand that this is category ID, right? Because when we go to our models and we're looking at products, it is category ID, which is probably in my category model right here. So it's category ID. Okay, so that's where that's coming from. And I just wanted to double check and make sure that you understood that once you did the updated the ID, because if we look back at the controller, we do have category ID in here. But I want to make sure that you're matching up everything as you should be. Okay, so now we're in browse and we've changed these few little things. What we can do is go ahead and try this out. So if I'm in shop here, I'll go to home, I'll go to shop here, and if I go to breakfast, there you go. I've got one card and it's Cheerios, and of course I've misspelled that. Okay, and so if I go back to, let's say, something that I know has two products. So snack foods and beverages. So in here I have ginger ale and I have sweet chili heat. Okay, potato chips. Not very descriptive yet. All it is kind of telling you that I've got some ginger ale and I've got a particular type of chips that I actually like to eat. So I know this piece actually is working out okay. Okay, so if I go to organic, I get bananas. Okay, but notice something here too. I go to pets. Okay, it still goes to shop, then browse, and I want to click on the pet food, the Iams cat food. Okay, it's not actually updating this. So what I need to now do is go to my browse and I have to update my controller. So I'm going to go here to product, to products, and then here what I want to have is, so what I'm saying is I want to send them, I want my products controller to send them to my actual products. Here's my product model. And for my product model, I want to go to details. Okay. So what I'm trying to say now is let's navigate from using the products controller all the way to the products details. So this will be detail. And if I don't spell that properly, it is definitely not going to work. Okay, so let's save that. And now let's go back out. I'm going to go to shop here. I'm going to go to pets. And now I'm going to go to Iams cat food. And I've got an error. Let's see. Probably didn't spell something properly. Yes, of course. And I just said it, spelling details. Okay, so products. And let's hope I spelled everything properly there as well. So if I go back, give it a second, and go to Iams cat food. Ah, amazing. Somehow I ended up with a pair of socks. Let me look into that. Okay, so the issue is, remember, the last time when we copy it from index, we're actually going from category ID when we're looking at that index. But when we're actually browsing, we're browsing the product ID. Okay, so when we go back, and I go back to my list, I go to shop here, I'll go to pets, Iams cat food, it brings me back to this. Okay, let's go shop here again. Food and beverages, sweet chili heat, there you go. What about shop here, snacks, ginger ale, very distorted photo because I seem to have some little quotation mark there. I can clean that up. So while I'm in here, if you were to select the back to list button and you were expecting maybe to go back to here, that wouldn't have been correct because remember, we're navigating to details. Okay, and details was an item, was a view that already existed. So what we said was go to a page that already existed, but down when we got to that page, this back to list, it actually brought us back to here. Okay, so let's go. What else do I have? Dinners. I have nothing in there for any dinners. What about clothing? Here's my socks. What else do I have in here? Fish, tilapia. There you go. So I've got different items that I did put up there. Cleaning products. I didn't put any cleaning products. Meat. I got the chicken in there. Okay. So remember that I'm actually logged in right now as an admin under, that's my logged in account right now. And you understand that I can see all of this stuff. Okay, so I want to log out. Okay, and now notice that I've gone to an anonymous user. But if I hit the shop here, okay, and then I click all that, here's an issue. Okay, so what did I do? Is I went to shop here. It brought me to these categories. Okay, I don't have any cleaning products, but I go to these categories. Okay, lets me go here. Now I want to look at the ginger ale, but that's the issue. Is right now I don't have the details page set to an anonymous user. So I should go in there right now and do that before we take a break. So if I go to my products controller, okay, so remember where we were. Okay, we were actually trying to navigate to a product and look at details of a product. Okay, so it doesn't let us do that. So let's go to our products controller. Okay, and if I want to know which methods are in there, I think I've shown this before, I can just drop this down. But what I want is the details. Okay, and that brings me right to this here, product details. Okay. So what I'll do is just above my note, and I'm going to do this allow anonymous. Okay, and honestly, that's really all I need to do. Okay, so I've saved that. I'm going to go back out. I'm going to refresh this. Okay, and I'm still not logged in. And I'm getting this funny little quirky thing. And now if I hit on ginger ale, it actually allows me to see this. Okay, so what about going back to my list? Nope. Okay, let's see. What about editing? Nope, doesn't let me do that. It only lets me get the item that I want to look at. That's all that it's allowing me to do right now. We will make some changes to this page. So for example, we'll get rid of the edit button. I don't think you want your customers editing. And we will add like a quantity button, some calculations and stuff like that, plus the add to cart. Okay, but for now, we've got a little bit of other things that we want to do first. For the moment, what I want to do is put my this line of code here. I'm in my browse CSHTML, and I'm going to put this in I think an H6. Sorry. H6. Okay. I'm going to put that in there for a minute and do some more editing to this page. Actually, what I want to do is I'm going to change those to an H5. H6 was just a little too small. So what you're seeing is that when I refresh those, this got a little bit bigger. But it is actually missing a lot of different information as well. So in this particular case, I'm going to say, let's do an H6. And inside my H6, I want to talk about price. Okay, so why don't we add the price to it, for example? So what I'm going to do is say at string. That's a capital S on that string. And I'm going to say format. And I'll put the brackets in there. This becomes a quote. I might as well put both quotes in there just to make sure I've got them both. And then these braces. Okay, and inside the braces, it's going to be 0:C for currency. And again, you know, that's going to be the current currency of where you're located when you're looking at this. So it's somehow going to be connected to your IP address and where you're routed, so wherever in the world. So we'll say p.price. Okay, and let's go have a look at that really quick. And if we do a refresh on this, see if we get an output of what the price is. So we said ginger ale was $7, sweet chili heat's $4. That's actually supposed to be a case of ginger ale. Okay. So one thing I think that I want to add to this, I think I actually want to add the image, the actual image that we used before to go inside of this card. So if we go to where the image is actually saved, where we had it before, what We could have actually just gone and maybe copy and pasted and all that stuff, but we'll just do it because there's a slightly different way that we could do this. So we could do img src equals, okay, and we're going to go to, it looks like if we go over to our file folder where we've got this, we go into image product uploads. Okay, so if I go back to this, I gotta take out those to have the IntelliSense. Okay, now I'm making things really bad. Okay, so I'll go to quotes, and then you see image, and then it's basically walking me along to where I need to be. So product uploads. And the next thing that we want to do in this is we're not going to pick a specific one. What I'm going to do is type in, and the next thing I want to be is at p.photo, and I'll go outside the quotation, and I'm going to put in alt equals, let's say product photo. Okay, and then outside that quote, we can go class thumb. Oh. We'll just go with that, class thumb. Okay, and then I want to close that off. And let's go have a look in that. But I want to clean my formatting, so Control KD to line everything up again. So I'll save that and go out and see if that actually worked. So there you go. Now I've got the actual image plus the price and the title of it. And when I click on this, it'll actually take me to some product details. One thing I do want to share with you is you'll notice the difference in that background. Okay, there's no item background like you can see here with the little bit of a gray border. And that has a lot to do with the actual images that were saved. If I go into this file and I look at all those images, you'll notice that the bag of chips, you can't really see it unless you kind of make the icon a lot bigger. Let's see if I can get an extra large icon. So there's no background, but you'll see that the can of pop here, the Canada Dry, actually has a little bit of a tint, a gray tint to it. Okay, the one I really want to show you, because this proves my point the most, this one is a PNG. It has no background. Okay, and if you look at the actual website, notice here's the icon, but the orange actually shows through it. Okay, this one with the Canada Dry, the background does not get filtered out. Okay, so you still see the gray, but over here, there's no background in it. It's just a white background. So it's kind of fooled into thinking that it's got a transparent background, but in actuality, it does have something similar to this gray. It's just that it actually matches the background color. So there's different types of files and different type of characteristics that the images have. So in this particular one, it's a transparent background. Okay. I think this one here might be a transparent as well, but you can have different ones. And sometimes if you're dealing with a vector, you would have like this little checkerboard pattern and stuff like that. That kind of gives you an idea of what the background actually is. Okay, but usually my experience has been that a PNG is more likely to have a transparent background, and you can go in and do some work on those. But just from a purely aesthetic point of view, to me, seeing this bag of chips with no background is just aesthetically a lot more appealing to me than, say, with this gray background. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to say about that. Another thing I can do is I can put this in here, this P, and what I'm saying is at P dot description, and just close out the bracket. Okay, so if I go to save that and I go back out and I refresh this, I'll go here. Meat. Nope. Wow, did that chicken ever get humongous? Um, so I've just got different little comments underneath there. Vegetables, locally grown, fish. Okay, so it's $20 per kilogram. Um, full of sugar and $7 for 12. Awesome, which is true because those are the greatest chips ever invented by any chip company in the world. So I would like to actually highlight a couple of things there. So go back to meat. Look at the size of that image there. What's another one? Dairy. Okay, so I went through and I checked all of them. All of these image sizes are completely out of scale. However, when you look at bananas, they're perfectly scaled. Clothing is fine. Pets is fine. Condiments, so ketchup. My Heinz ketchup is fine. Okay, so really what that means is you got to go through and test out these images in the background because maybe, you know what, that chicken image is just not it's not appropriate, like it's the wrong scale altogether. So go in and get some more detail about that particular image and change it out, or you can go into paint. Okay, if I go to paint and I open up let's say open, let's see if it's in here. Oops. If I were to go in and maybe open up the chicken image, open that up, you see how huge that is, right? So if I want to resize that, I'm going to do by a percentage. So just for fun, I'll do by 50%. I'm going to save that. Okay, I'll close it, go back out. Hopefully I got the right one, that it was attached to that. Doesn't appear to be. Anyway, you get the idea. You got to be careful about the images that you do upload, and you got to test them so that they don't get all blown out of proportion on your customer screens. Because don't forget, okay, this is an adaptive web design. Okay, so look at what happens to all of our stuff on here, and we get the hamburger menu and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so make sure that you do consider those things when you're putting in your images. So we could, let's go and take care of that. So one of the issues is I created this class called thumb in this particular item with the photo. So if I go into my site under CSS, site CSS, now I've got that class thumb that I started working on. And you can see this one here is an image thumbnail. That was from the last time I was working with images. And so what I think I would like to do is just, I'll go fix that class. So it's just going to be basically dot thumb. Okay. And within that, we'll say width. Let's again go for, let's try 100. Okay, px semicolon, put a space in there. Okay, let's just try that, and then go back and see how that looks. Okay, so if we go to shop here and I go to meat, okay, so it's still a little bit ginormous. What else do I have here? If I go to here, doesn't seem to have any impact on that. But what could end up happening is I could have a conflict between the Bootstrap CSS that I've been putting in, okay, and some of the other files that I've done. Okay, so if you look at your Bootstrap dist CSS, if I were to go into here and do a Control F and type in the word thumb, okay, look at how many. So I've got image thumbnail. Okay, if I go down here, I've got WebKit slider thumb, Moz range thumb, MS thumb. And notice this is on like line 4,328. Okay, and if I cycle through there, I get to 4,040, 4,340. So there's just a bunch of different versions of this, right? I'm down to 4,362 on that one. 76. So there's a lot of different. Oh wow, we're going down to 4,397. Okay, so there's a lot of different CSS stuff. Okay, 4411. Okay, so all I'm trying to say is you can be aware of what you're doing in terms of your formatting of your images. You can attempt to go in and try to clean it up if you want, but there's always that situation where there's going to be more than one thing having to do with what you're trying to do when it comes to your CSS. You just have to get the right order of precedence, okay, where it's reading either Bootstrap or it's reading your CSS, or which one comes first. Okay. Something that's happened is that I was looking it through, I guess, Google Chrome. Okay, so when I go to Chrome and I look at this, it's not updating it. It's somehow getting cached, and I just don't want to go in and clear out that cache for now. But I went to another browser, okay, and now you can see that it's actually taken up that size. And so I think that size is far too small. So let's go with 80. Okay, we'll try 80 and see what happens there. Okay, it increased in size a little bit. I'm still not happy. I'm still going to go with 100. Okay, and I go back and let's go and look at the dairy. Okay, so dairy became a reasonable size. But now let's go back and look at my chips and my ginger ale. So those are all a good size. I'm happy with the way those have done that, because the more products I have, the more I'm going to lose real estate on my screen. Okay, and obviously I don't want to do that. So anyway, it looks like I'm cached in here, but I don't want to go in and clean it out right now. But for now, I'm more than happy to stay inside this one. Okay. Okay, to be honest, it's not actually that difficult to clear the cache. I'll just show you how I did it. You've got in Chrome, you've got these three little the dots. You go to More Tools, and then Clear Browse Data. And you can say like clear browsing data, and I'm saying from the time range for the last hour. Okay, so I'm just going to clear everything for the last hour, clear data, close that out, and that's the instructions. I did a quick search to refresh my memory on how to do it, but there it is. Okay, so even if I go to meat, my relaxing chicken is just sitting there hanging out, looking to be the right size. One more thing you can do with Chrome, I do this on my phone, but not necessarily on a browser. If you go to here, you can right click on it and do this new incognito window. So if you open that up, you can actually go in there and let's say, let me go back to here. I'll grab this. You can go to here and just drop that in there if you want to do that as well. Okay, but you see the color changes at the top. Okay, so if I turn this other one off and I go to here, so it's not going to be caching if I'm in this one here, because it's not saving any of your history. So what I'll do is if I go to start without debugging, you can see that it automatically went to here. It went to the version that was not incognito, but you can just kind of copy and paste that over to the other one in here. Okay, you can do that if you want to. And it's got this incognito thing over here too, but I'm not signed in. So if I log in and I do this, okay, it's not going to remember my stuff, but I'll log in. Okay, and then I go to these different things. There's my chicken, and there's my dairy. Okay, just something extra for you guys to know. Okay, so what I thought I would do is I would go and check out what's going on the Zehrs website. So I just put in a search for chicken in there. Okay, and if I go down, and what you can see is I've selected this one already. But you know, suppose I want something different. Okay, what's really interesting is that they've got, you know, an image view, they've got a little bit of a description, they've got prices and some more detail. Okay, and same with this barbecue chicken over here. But what's really neat is that on their site they've got either this little button that you can select, so add, and notice up here my shopping cart at the very top. Okay, right now it says 0, but if I go to here and I do add, okay, and let's say I select 1 or 2, notice my shopping cart actually updated over here and the price updated. So I've got a drop down that tells me this. So they've got some neat things on there, really cool functionality to their site, but they've got this add to cart thing. Now, it's important that you recognize that I haven't signed in. Okay, I'm not signed in right now. I'm an anonymous shopper right now. Okay, so when I select the items in my shopping cart, you can see that it's increasing here. My total's increasing. So on the page itself and over here. So what happens if I do there you go. So I click on the individual item and it's got all this other additional information for me as well. And some more information about it being available in the store. And it's got this plus or minus. So I can reduce that, and you see it actually reduces the amount of stuff in my shopping cart. But again, I'm still an anonymous user. The really cool thing is this related items. Okay, so that's more of a marketing ploy, but it's really nice to see that they're actually doing this within their webpage, suggesting complementary items that are going with the things that I've actually picked. Okay, that's actually referred to, well, I was almost going to say it's an upsell, but it's not necessarily an upsell. An upsell would be where we go to check out and then a complementary item would actually pop up in front of us and give us a choice whether we wanted to get one or just continue to check out with the original items that we first selected. Okay, so they've got some pretty good stuff on their store. It's funny, I can't believe they didn't actually, I've never been on this website, just so you know. I've never looked at their site. I was expecting to see bright orange. Okay, so anyway, I'll turn that off. We go back to our site and let's go to our Mr. Chicken. Okay, Mr. Chicken has very little in the way of those items that they had. Okay, so what do we want to do next? So I'm back in Browse, and what I think I'm going to have to do now is add a form within this, because remember, I'm trying to add the add to cart functionality. So that means I want to pick my quantity, and that's a form that we're placing inside there. Okay, so let's just have a look. I'm going to go right below this description. Okay, and I'll put a little comment in there. Form. Oh, sorry, I can't do those kind of comments in there. Sorry about that. And I just put the comment in there. Okay. So in my form, what I'm going to have to do is, let's do this. So form. Okay, and I'll close it out, and then that way I can add this stuff inside that bracket. So it's going to be a method equals post. Okay. And outside the post, we've got to have an action. And that action is going to be, where do we want to go from here? I don't think we want to navigate anywhere inside here. This is going to be shop, and add to cart. Okay, but we haven't created the add to cart yet. So we need to actually go ahead and do that piece. Okay, let me just move that down to one line. So I will need a quantity to input, right? which you saw when I was in the Zaire site, like how many of those packages of chicken that I wanted, and also an actual button to get it to go to my cart. Okay. And keep something in mind is that each individual item is going to have this form associated to it. Okay, so we will have to do this hidden form, and I'll just make a comment here. It's going to be hidden field for the selected product ID. Okay, so we need this. Do that. Okay, it's just a good comment to have in there so that you understand why I'm doing this. So what this is going to be is I do an input. So I need an input here, and type equals hidden. The right down there. It's going to be hidden. Okay, and then ID equals product ID. ID. Yeah, just like that. And then name is going to equal product ID. And the value is going to be in quotation, so that'll be at p dot ID. Okay, so I've got two IDs. Do I want product ID or category ID? And I hope that you realize we want product ID. Okay, and then let's just, we have to close this out. Okay, let me go ahead and save that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is this class. I'm going to create this div class. So div, okay, and class is going to equal a form group. So let's see if I've got one in there. Form group. Okay. And I'll close that out. Give myself some space. So just to be clear, I don't want people to see the product ID, so I'm hiding it from view. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this line right here. I have to call it, but I want to make sure that I'm hiding it from view. It's the only way for the software to know that when we actually click on this button, we know which product it is that we actually want. So this form group is going to have a label, a text box, and a little add to cart button. Okay, so not overly complicated, and you know, within the label we're going to have the quantity. Okay, so here it'll be label, and it'll be class, and it's going to be control label. Control, which one do I want? I don't know that I want either one of those. I'm just gonna see if it'll skip through that. Okay, so I want control label, and now and this is gonna be, I don't need the space, sorry. Quantity, and I'm going to close the label out there. Okay, and then just on the other side of that, we're going to say quantity. And put a semicolon in there with a little bit of a space. Okay, and then there's the closing label tag. And then the next line, I'm going to say input. Input is going to be name equals, it'll be quantity. Okay, and then outside of that, it will be ID equals quantity. And what else? Okay, required minimum equals 1. Okay, and then the max is going to equal 99999. So 5 nines. Okay, you shouldn't be buying any food at my grocery store over $10,000 unless you're planning for the end of the world. Okay, so type, or you're on that TV show called Extreme Shopping or Extreme Couponing or something like that in the States. Okay, and then that's going to be number and class equals let's go input small. Okay, it's in there somewhere. Okay, I'm just going to type in input small, and I need to close that out. Okay, there. Bit of a long line of code. Okay, and I've got the div tag, ending tag already in there. Now the last thing is right after that, I want to put in a button, and we'll say class equals btn. Now be careful with this because sometimes the IntelliSense will go in there and add stuff that you don't want it to add. btn dash primary p primary. Okay, and I'm going to close that out, and I'm going to type add to cart. Okay, now I want to save that. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is just to make sure all my alignment is good, I'll do Control KD just to make sure it's all lined up. And it looks like it is. So I saved it, and let's go and have a quick look at it. But really quickly, I want to just mention that the reason I've gone with this required is I don't want this to be 0. Okay, so because if I have required and I don't put anything in, it's going to cause a problem for me. So if I input something, the minimum you can put in is 1, but the maximum is you're going to get just one shy of 10,000 items. Okay, so it's important that you put that in there, and that once you fill it in, it does become an actual required field. Okay, so let's go back out and have a look. Okay. So we've got the 2 items, we've got our add to cart, and we've got our quantity, and you'll notice here that I've got the toggle. Okay, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge that we're going to clean up. It's not the best alignment either. I don't really love this, the way the quantity is in this spot. I'm not really overly concerned at the moment with it. But right now you see I can't go back down to 0. Okay, so my add to cart button is there. It's picked up the formatting as a button. That's good. I like that. And I'm still inside this this particular card. And of course, this type equals numbers. Okay, we don't want any other character at all in here. I want a quantity, and it's got to be a number. So that's why I've put this type equals number. Okay. So when I go back out to my page here, and I try to hit this add to cart, the first thing you'll notice is please fill out this field. Okay, and that is because we've got the required word there. Now I want to talk about this input small and why I put that in there. And that's because if I go back down to where I put the thumb, I feel that this box is just too big. I don't need that much space there. And so what I can do is I can go back to here to where I put the thumb, And I could do a comma because now I want my that same class to be uh, just as wide as, say, the image. Okay, so because I want it to be width of 100 pixels, I can kind of reuse this a little bit. And I could do dot input small. Okay, so I can do that as well, and just kind of double up on that that CSS file. So when I go back to here, and hopefully I won't get cached again, which it looks like I might have. So if I do Control Shift R, that might actually help me as well. So it's been updated, but to be perfectly honest, I still don't like the extreme size of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, I'll take that out of here. Okay, Control X, take out the comma. And just down below it, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to say width is going to be, I'm going to say 50 px, 50 pixels. Okay. And let's go back and see how that one takes shape. So you can see it's a much smaller quantity box and it's more in line with the center. So I'm a lot more happy with that. So let's just say, you know, I just don't see that you should be ordering 100 of these, but notice that it actually auto shifted for me. I could technically go now and buy 109 of these. In the actual box itself, just widened itself slightly. Okay, so I'm going to put in 0. Add to cart. It's got to be greater than, must be greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so I'm just going to just delete it. Okay, and I don't need it in there right now. So I'm a little happier with the way that worked. So I'm kind of happy with where this is all going for now. So what I think I'll do before I continue on is actually push my changes to GitHub if I can. Okay, so I'm in, I'll go to change. I haven't done anything in quite a while. So let's just do start of shopping cart. Okay, I think that's good enough for a comment. I'm going to commit all. Okay, I'm going to synchronize that. And then I'm going to push that out there. And you can see that it's compressing objects and sending them out to the GitHub land. Okay, and there, it's fully posted out there if you want or need to see that code in more detail. So I think this would probably be a good time to have a break. So, you know, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, and then maybe come back to this. So when we get to this particular page, what I'm in is my products and then details. You'll notice that I'm not actually logged in again. Okay, so this is an anonymous person looking at the website, and they've got access to looking at these details. So what I want to do is actually go in and do some editing in here based off of the work that we've just done previously. Okay, so definitely I'll be getting rid of the edit button because I don't want my anonymous users to have access to that. Okay, and then we'll do some reconfiguring of things in this particular page as well. Another thing to note is that if I go to here and let's say I do 1, okay, and I select the add to cart, you notice I get this error because it's got nowhere to go. I actually shouldn't say it that way. It does have somewhere to go. Okay, it's in the shop controller and then add to cart. Okay, it does have somewhere to go, except that that place that I want it to go doesn't really have anything on it yet. Okay, so I've kind of mapped out the path from shop to add to cart by using this button, this add to cart button, but there's no view in existence yet to give that any meaning. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to go to my products details page. I'm going to open that up. I don't need sites, so I'm going to close that down. Okay, so right now I've got my details page is open. And what does it say right now? I've got details, product. So when I look at this, if I go to here, to breakfast, to here, you see details and product and all that stuff. So I'm in that view right now for that. So let's just clean that one up a little bit. I'm going to take this word, this product, actually a Control X, Control V, product details, and get rid of my H4. Okay, I just don't need it. And then I can tighten that up, a little bit of KD, and do a save. Okay. I'm also going to update this here. So I'll do product details as well right here on line 4. Okay. And we'll see how that looks. No big super change there. That should just update there. And then you'll notice right here at the very top of the tab, it says product details. Okay. One little change on my details page that I want to make, and I'm going to make it right above my photo. Because you may not always be putting a photo into it. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm just going to put this if model.photo is equal to null. Okay, then I'm going to do the rest. And what you can do here is highlight that and just do Alt and then push that up there. Okay, and I'll go ahead and save that. It's just a little bit of minor housekeeping. Okay, just it's not vital. It was working the other way, but what happens if I actually don't have an image? What happens if I don't have a photo? So what's a good example of one where I didn't actually have a photo? I think we saw one for cleaning products. Can I go? Okay, so I'll look at that a little bit after. But right now I don't have any cleaning products to look at. And I think everything else I've got actually has a photo associated to it. Okay, so broccoli does. Yeah, not a big deal for now, but I just wanted to put that in there. Okay. I'm going to just show one more little example of how you could have done this line. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this entire line. Copy and paste, and then I'll go back to this line and I'll just comment this out for a minute. But I could do this. I could go right after uploads and in here, this, you see I've got that quotation mark right there. I can take that quotation mark out, and instead of a plus, I can go at photo. Model.photo. Okay, and I'm going to take this out of here as well. And I believe I can take out this at in that. Okay, so I got to make sure that I balance out my quotations. And I think then from here I can just do this. I can go get rid of all that. And I'm going to do Alt equals product photo. Okay. And let's have a little look at that and see how it goes. Now, just remember something though. It's gonna it may have an impact on the size of this. Okay, so that has been saved, and I'm going to go back out. I'm going to refresh at this point here. Then I'm going to click on one of the items. You know what? Just to double check, I'm going to clear the cache from the last hour. Clear, close that out, go to here, and go back to this. And you can see that it's still there in this view. But when I go to here, notice now I've still got the image in there. So you can go kind of either way that you want to do this. Okay. Okay, so I am gonna change back to the other the other method that I had, okay, because it works. Okay, so I'll keep that in the code and I'll just comment that out and uncomment this. Okay, and that's the version I'm going to go with. All right, Control KD. All right, because that worked, I don't want to break it. Not entirely sure what this little doodad is right here. Okay, Control KD, and I honestly I don't know what that little underscore thing is. Very bizarre to me. Anyway, let's see if that broke anything. No, all looks good so far. Good. So in this view, I want to remove the edit link, and I want to add the add to cart form to this view. Okay, because when we go to shop here and I say breakfast, let me go and look at this one. I can do it from here, but then I want to get more details about it. And then I'm going to say, oh, okay, yep, I'm convinced I do want to buy one of these things. So I don't want an anonymous user to edit that. But I also do want to be able to add this to my cart. So what I can do is actually, I can remove this, but I'm going to just comment it out for now. I'm not going to have it come back, but this is another issue right here. This index, this back to list. I don't want the anonymous users to do this. So I'm going to have to make a modification to this particular line in a minute also. Okay, so let's go out and just confirm that it's gone. So if is it saved? No, I need to save it. And then go back, refresh, and it should have disappeared. There it is. Okay, so what happens as an anonymous user there, see what I mean? It doesn't allow an anonymous user to actually go to that list. Actually, come to think of it, I don't even want that thing anymore. I'm just going to get rid of it. Okay, so it's gone. Don't need it. What I am going to do is create a different navigation. So that's why I don't need it in there to complicate matters for me. Okay. So now let's go and address this, this add to cart issue. So if I go to my browse and I've got the form, one thing I can do is just take the entire form. Okay. I'll take the comment as well. I'm going to take the entire comment and I'm going to do a copy and I'm going to go to my details view again. So I'm back in details and I'm going to drop that in there. Okay. And obviously I'm going to have to go in here and do some tweaking. Okay. Now, you may or may not be able to see it on your screen, but I do have, if I look at my error list, okay, I've got this error right here, and that's actually on line 54, and it is right here. That's the first error that I've got. So as you can see, there's this little squiggly line, and it says the name P does not exist in the current context, which is absolutely true. And let's go to the top and see what's up here. It's looking for models. Okay, so instead of actually having P for product, which doesn't exist, I wonder if it'll give me a little hint or the suggested fix. No, I guess it doesn't. So this needs to be model. Okay, and there you'll see that the error goes away. And I want to save that. So that's the first thing right off the bat that I want to make sure that I change. Now let's go and have a look. So we'll refresh that. And there it is. So our little button with the up and down arrow actually appears on there, plus the add to cart button. So let me click that button. Okay, first off, I get that issue. So I'll put in a 1. And again, same problem as before. I don't have the actual add to cart view built yet. So if I do the back button, it brings me back to here. Okay, but consider one thing is the fact that I I actually don't have a way for my user right now to navigate back if they want to look at, say, some more items. All they can do right now is do the shop here, go to here, maybe go to ginger ale, okay, and there it is. Okay, so let's have a look there. One thing I don't really like about this is that the quantity and the button are so far over. I'd like it to be more centered than that. And the way I can do that is I can actually go up to my form here in the details CSHTML, and I can actually add this class offset 2. Okay, so when I save that and I go back out, what happens is it should kind of just justify that over to the right more. So there it is. Okay, and the reason it's offset 2 is because we're kind of in 2 different columns. Okay, you can see that the name and all these labels are justified here, and then the second column, it's all justified this way. So I just wanted to push it over. Remember that I took that that link out of there. It was the edit and back to list. I took that out of there. So what I want to do is something just a little bit different. And I'm going to do an A, and it'll be an href. Okay, and that's going to be actually Java. Let me see. It shouldn't be one of those. I'm going to just say Java script, JavaScript, and a colon, and then history. Okay, and that history is going to be .go with a method call in there, and it'll be -1. -1 meaning go back 1 page previous to where you are. Okay, and then I'm going to close that tag out. Okay, I'll close the tag, and within that, now I'm going to say, I'm just going to put these characters here, and it'll say back, and that's it. Okay, so let me go ahead and save that. Okay, I don't have any errors or anything like that. But now when I refresh that, let's see what the effect is going to be. Okay, so you see the back arrow now. And let me click on that. So there you go. So if I say sweet chili heat, I don't want that. I'm going to hit the back button. It takes me back to here. So we've done that pretty good. So the next big thing we need to do is actually create the add to cart method in our store controller. Okay, because we don't have that. So, you know, if I try to click on that and I get nothing. Okay, I've got the URL, but I don't actually have something there. And one final note before I do go, if I try to type in, so you can hopefully hear the keyboard, I'm trying to actually type in characters. It doesn't let me. I'm only allowed to do numbers. Anyway, I should have covered that a little bit earlier, but I got to it now. So it is important to understand another thing here, that we have 2 locations that this add to cart method can be called. Okay, and we've got this location that it can be called, but we also have this location. So I've got 2 locations that this method can be called. Okay, and just for clarification for something I previously said, when I click on this button, for example, and I say I don't have a view to go to, you know, just for clarity, understand that I've got the shop controller, but in the shop controller, I've got an add to cart method. Okay, so that's really what I'm talking about. So when I say shop, this is the controller, obviously. Okay, and then there's the method, the add to cart method. Okay, this is my view. And right now, I don't have a method that is associated with adding to cart, and then I don't have a view that is going to an actual shopping cart view yet that is connected to that. Okay, so when I go back to my views and I look at categories and products and all that stuff, let's go to my products index. Okay, this is what I've got in here. Not exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, I want an add to cart method to do something. Okay, and it's going to involve probably going to a view that looks at my shopping cart. So because we're going to be adding to our cart, it's really important right now that we go in and let's do a review of our cart model. Okay, so I open that up. What are all the things that I have inside my cart model? I've got my cart model. Here's my class definition. And I've got cart ID, product ID, the date created, the customer's ID, the quantity, and the actual product. So really important things that I've got in there that I need to just wanted to go in and have a quick review of the way I built my model in for my cart class. So as I open up my model for my cart, I'm realizing that there's one thing that is actually missing, and I'm going to have to add that in and then do a migration. And what that is going to be, and I'm going to give you 1 second to think about it. And hopefully you got this. Okay, the price. It's going to make our lives easier down the road. And because I'm putting in that price, obviously I'm going to have to do a migration. Because don't forget, this is in my model, and I'm going to have to update this. Okay. And really what this comes down to is my quantity times my price. Okay. So because I've added the price, and when I actually go into my database for carts, you'll see that I've got cart ID, product ID, date created, customer ID, and quantity, but I actually don't have the price column in there. So I could actually go in here and do this manually through Management Studio. I can go in and add that if I wanted, but we've been using migrations. So what I want to do in my in Visual Studio is I want to actually just go in and do it as an actual migration. Okay, so how I'm going to do that is it is just basically do add dash migration. Okay, and I'm going to say add cart price. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. And there, you see that the build succeeded, and I'm getting this new file inside my migrations. Okay, and it's got, it's right here, add cart price. It's been migrated. Okay, so then over here, it is going to be update, I believe, database. Okay, and enter. Okay, and I spelled it the wrong way. And of course, I forgot in here to add the dash. Okay, so if I go back to here, I add the dash. Okay, and now I do this, and I get the update. So let's go back now to our model and refresh this. Okay, and we go to databases, Georgian tables, and we go to carts, and we look at columns, and there it is. You see it right there on the bottom. Okay, so I've got price inside my database now. The first time I just did this migration, I was actually logged into my Azure database. But now I'm actually logged in now into my local host. So on my computer. So if you go in and you look at the cart in all of my columns, you'll see that I don't actually have, even if I do a refresh on this, I actually don't have the price. So what I'm going to have to do is go in and run another migration. Okay, and I'm going to add this local. Okay, I'm going to run that, and you'll see that it created this one here. Okay, now if I do an update database, it should theoretically go over to the database that I'm actually logged in. So if I do a refresh on this, and then I open up my columns, okay, I'm not seeing the price yet, but let's do this connection, get out, and then go back to my database, Georgian groceries, tables, carts. Okay, and you're not seeing it now, but let's do another refresh. I'm going to disconnect from that. Then I'm going to, let's see what's going on here. Okay, it still thinks I'm on inside this Azure database. Okay, so that's an issue for me. So going between both of your, either your local or your Azure, just be aware that you're going to have to actually do updates on both systems. Okay, so if you're deploying to Azure and you're happy to deploy to Azure, that's fine. But if you're deploying it locally, you're going to have to do this again. Okay, so give me a second. I'll figure this stuff out, and then we'll get back into doing what we were doing. Another way that you can see that, now that I've done the migration locally, is I can go to Server Explorer. And up here, I've got my Azure, but down below, I've got database connections. I've got my local. And in my tables, if I go to cart, you can see I've got price in there. Okay. So let me just close that out. So I'm back in the, basically in the home page. And here's a couple of issues that we have to start to really consider. Notice here I'm an anonymous user. Okay, I'm not logged in, I'm not registered or anything like that. But if I go to shop here, and let's say I go to, I want to buy some cat food, and I go in and I can do all this stuff. So I want one, anyway, we'll fix that soon. Or I want to go in through this way and I want to get this item. Notice I'm not logged in. They have no idea. The website has no idea who I am. Okay, so when I log in, let's say I'll go to customer. Okay, and that will be ABC123 exclamation. Okay, and now I've got the same sort of things available to me, but notice I'm now in as a customer. So if I go to shop here and I go to pets, and I do add to cart, I can do that, or I can go into here and I can do this in here as well. Okay, if I'm logged in as an administrator, then I have more of the back end of the website that I can go and see. Okay, but because I've got my customer ID tied to my email address, that's gonna change the dynamic of what we're trying to do. Because if I go ahead and I log out and I get to that stage, then what's going to happen? How is it going to know who I am, or how to gather all the information that I was shopping for and then put it into my shopping cart? Well, basically, it has to be done through my customer email. That's going to be my email or my login credentials, which is usually email and password. So that is the way it's going to know. So at some point in here, even though I'm an anonymous user, if I do this and then I go ahead and I try to shop and buy something, the moment I do this add to cart, it will add it to my cart. But when I check out, that's when things start to change. Okay, so I can keep adding to cart. Mind you, I have to build the actual cart. But when I add to cart and then I want to check out, that's when at some point I'm either going to have to register or I'm going to have to log in. Okay, But the interesting thing is, I'm not going to lose everything that I've been shopping for. Okay, so we have to consider all of that logic as we're going along. I don't want to have several things that I'm looking for. I've got two of these. I've got, a couple bags of chips. Okay, and I do an add to cart, and it gets added to my shopping cart, but I'm not logged in or registered. But I have all these items in a cart. Okay, so at some point I will have to register or I will have to log in order to complete the transaction. Okay, so that's a long sort of explanation of the things long term that we actually have to go in here and do. So within this, there's a couple of things. There's a couple of classes that we're going to be able to use in combination to do some of this. Because keep in mind, if you're already logged in as the user, this makes this whole entire process really easy. It gets difficult when you're not actually logged in. Okay, so it's not just about the login credentials. It's also going to be until we get to that point, because how can you store something if you don't have an actual login credential? Okay, you haven't given the website or the database your username and password to get in. So how do we do that and then sort of transfer one over to another? So we're going to use two things. One, it's going to be something called a session. And if you've done PHP, you'll understand something about sessions. But the second thing is, and we've worked with it already, and it's this GUID. Okay, so we're going to use the two of them hand in hand to overcome the fact that people are shopping as anonymous shoppers. So if our user is anonymous, we can store that user in a GUID and then use that GUID actually in a session. And that's really what we're going to try and do. So we're going to create the anonymous user GUID and then use it in a session. We're not configured yet for sessions, but we will come back to it. We're configured to use a GUID, but just not sessions. So the first thing we're going to do is actually do this. We're going to work on the add to cart method. Okay, and so if I put this in here, and you'll notice in my parameter list inside the method, okay, what am I looking for right now? Okay, I'm looking for two different things. So when I go out to my site, I've got the actual product that I want and the quantity. Okay, so when I do an add to cart, what I'm saying is add my ginger ale and add my quantity. Okay, so if I go back to here, I'm saying, okay, what's my product ID and what's my quantity that I want to add to that? Okay. So when I go to my details, okay, this is just to show you what's happening inside that form. Okay, inside this form here, this add to cart form. So when I go back to, for example, details, I've got this hidden property here, this ID, which is product ID. Okay, and then I've got this visible one called quantity. So I have to make sure that these actually match up perfectly in terms of their spelling. So I'll do a copy. Okay, and then let's go back to here and make sure that this is the exact same thing. Okay, and then quantity, I want quantity. And again, I'll make sure that it's perfectly matched. Okay, and don't worry about that error yet. It's just because it's an I action result. It means it's looking for a returned view. So first thing I do want to, I need to do is query the database for the product price. And we're going to create this variable here. We'll put that in and it's going to be price. So it's our context dot products. Okay, and it'll be find product ID. Okay, which is this here that matches. And then the price. Next, after that, put that down on there, I'm going to get the current date and time using the built-in .NET function. And so I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to come back to it, okay? But it's just important that I put it in here right now, because I think what I want to do is actually go to, I want to create a new cart object first. So we'll leave that aside for now, and we'll go down here. And what I'm going to do is go look at creating a new cart object. So I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to just put the node in there. And what this one's going to be is a var cart is going to equal new cart. Okay, that's all that is right now. And of course it's, sorry, let me move down a little. Okay, enter. And then I've got a bunch of things that I want to put in here. Okay, so first and foremost, let's go with product ID is going to equal product ID. Okay, and let's put a comma in there. Okay, we need a comma. And then we'll say quantity is going to equal quantity. Okay, another comma. And we'll say price is going to equal to price. Okay, and that one's going to be lowercase. Okay, so now let's go comma again. So date created is going to equal current date time. Okay, and that was this up here. Okay, and then let's go customer ID is going to equal customer ID. And that should be it for that. And I'll finish up with a semicolon. And I'll come back to this this error in a second. Okay, it says show potential fixes, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. So the reason I put this line in there is because I want to timestamp it so I know when the item was actually put into the cart. Okay, so that's why I've gone and created this local variable here. Okay, so far we've got price is here, and we've got that current date, that timestamp that we want to have in there, and product ID, quantity, customer ID. Okay. And just really quickly, because I didn't really explain this very much, this is just a C# property that I'm putting into current date and time. Okay, so it's just from a C# library, you put that in there. So there's a little bit of complexity added to this. So instead of this customer ID, what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to save this as a test. Okay, and we're going to say make this dynamic for now. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for now. And let me just hit the save on that one. And I know I've got an error up top. Now the way I want to add a new record to the cart table is down here. I want to do underscore context. Is it in there? I was hoping it was in there. Context, it should be sorry, underscore. Okay, underscore context dot dot add, and inside here will be cart. Okay, and you can see it there. It doesn't really matter which one I select. Semicolon, and then the next one is underscore again context. Okay, dot save changes. Okay, there. Let me go ahead and save that. I'm very paranoid about not saving in time. So for now, I actually don't have a new view that I want to go to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect to this cart view. Okay, because I've got this error up top here and it's looking for a return. Okay, so if I do return, and I'm going to call this redirect, looking for action. redirect to action. Okay, so inside here, I'm going to look for cart. Okay. And it should make this error go away, and it did. Okay. So this method here doesn't exist. So we're going to create an empty method that loads a blank page. For the most part, this is a placeholder. Okay, so I don't have it yet. I'm just going to build this placeholder cart to go to. So this is typical public, and it's IA action results, and it's called cart. Oh, sorry, it should be a capital cart, and you guessed it, we're just going to do a return view, and that's it. And it's got nothing in it, and it shouldn't be a 0. Doesn't matter. Okay, so I've got that just as a placeholder temporarily right now. So as it stands right now, when a user clicks the add to cart, we pass in this product ID and the quantity. So then we are going to go ahead and get the price. We're going to create a current timestamp, date and time. Then we're going to create a cart, and we are going to add all of these things inside the brackets. Okay, and right now we're testing it out. Okay, and then we are going to add to the cart, and we are going to save those changes. Okay, and right down here, what we're doing is kind of sending this to a placeholder cart location with this line 59. Okay, so that's just really quickly what we're doing at the moment. So without actually peeking at the timeline, I have a sneaking suspicion that this is going to be an extraordinarily long video, and I don't want that to happen, but I really have to kind of push through this particular one because next video, I want to actually add in the payment gateway with Stripe. So we have to get some certain things out of the way first before we can get to that next video. So what I'm going to do is try to push through, and so that we're properly set up for next time. So we've got a couple of scenarios here that we have to deal with. Okay, and one is the user logged in, and if so, is or is there not something in their cart? So we have to work out that logic as well. That's sort of scenario one. So if this is the very first item that's in the cart, then we need to create an identifier to that session there, based on the fact that this is the very first item that's going into the cart. And if they add subsequent items to the cart, then we can use that same identifier again. So what I'm going to do is right up here, I'm going to go, I'm going to do this little thing. So I'm going to create a customer ID variable. Okay, and what that's going to, I'll put that in there. I'll put the node in there. And what I want to do is actually do this customer ID, and I'm going to create a method to also do this. So I'm going to create customer ID and then get customer ID. Now, obviously I get the error because I haven't actually created the method itself yet. Okay. So if I just kind of scroll down, give myself some space, let me go right after my redirect to action cart. Okay. And what I'm going to do within this method, there's a lot of moving parts to this method. Okay. And so what I want to do is just walk through all of this stuff right now. And what this one's going to be is private. Okay. It's going to be private string, and it's going to be get customer. Well, it's basically this. Okay. It's going to be this here, and it's a method. Okay. And there's lots to do inside this method, but this is where we're going to go and deal with our sessions. So because this is defined down here, obviously the error here went away. So when I go back into the method, the first thing I'm going to want to do is check the session for an existing customer ID. Okay. And basically what it's going to look like is this. We're going to do an if statement, and it's going to look like this. If our HTTP context dot session dot get string customer ID equals null, okay, then do something. Okay, and so what this will be is that I'm just going to put the comment in there first. Okay, if we don't already have an existing customer ID in the session, check if customer is logged in. Okay, so let's create this variable, and it's going to just, we'll do it like this. Oh, sorry, that'd be var. I'm actually copying and pasting from one code source to another to make your life a little bit easier, because I know it's painful as hell watching me type. Okay, so I'm going to put this in right now. What I'm going to do is actually put in all the comments, the steps that I want to follow before we actually go in and start writing all the code. Okay, so this one's going to be if customer is logged in, use their email as the customer ID. If the customer is anonymous, then we want to use the GUID to create a new identifier. Okay, and then finally, after all of those are checked off, then the last thing we want to do, one of the last, is now store the customer ID in a session variable. Okay, so what I've done is if we don't already have an existing customer ID in the session, check if the customer is logged in. Okay, so that's how we're going to handle that particular case. So in this next one, if the customer is logged in, use their email as the customer ID. Okay, so the way I want to do this is to actually do that. Okay, so if user.identity is authenticated, okay, if it's been authenticated, then this customer ID will equal user identity name. Okay, so then let's say else. Oh, okay, else. What's next? If the customer is anonymous, use GUID to create a new identifier. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is just put in this code. So customer ID equals GUID dot new GUID to string. Okay, and then finally after that, then what I want is this line of code here. It's going to be like this: HTTP context dot session dot set string customer ID. Okay, and we're not fully out of the woods there yet with that. Still a little bit more to do. Okay, and now the last thing I want to do outside of this, right here, is actually return the session variable. Okay, and the way I'll return that session variable is like this. Return HTTP context.session.getString. You know what? It's almost identical as the line above it, except notice here this is a get and this was a set. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. So if we've already got a customer ID, okay, then we're just going to return that customer's value. Okay, that's all we're going to do with this particular last line here. Notice here I put this just this one little extra comment in there because I wanted to, want it to be clear that the name is actually really what it means is by the email address. So if the customer's logged in, use their email as the customer ID. So when I say name, it's really it's relating to their email. Okay, so I want to go back up to the top here to this line 55. Okay, and we had that set this way as a test to begin with. But what I think I want to do is I want to take all that out, and I'm going to set that to customer ID now. One thing we actually haven't done though is dealt with our sessions. Now, even though there's no error that's generated, I can tell you that there would have been an error, there would have been a failure because we haven't actually dealt with our sessions. Now, the sessions, the place that we have to do that is going to actually be inside our startup.cs is one place that we're going to work on that. And the place I need to do this is going to be right here. So I'll put a comment. So enable session support. Okay. And what I need to do with that actually is it's going to be services dot add session right there. Okay, and that's a method call. Okay, so that's the first place. Let's add to that comment there. To store identities for the shopping cart. Okay. So in configure services, we're going to call add session. In the configure method, we're going to call use sessions. And it's actually very important where it goes. So we had the other one up here in our configuration. Okay, but down here, sorry, that's called configuration services. But then in our configure, okay, we got to go down here and it has to be above this use endpoints. Okay, so I'm going to give some space, put a comment. So it'll be enable. Okay, I can actually just go up there and get that other comment. So let's do this. Okay, that. But this will be just changed to when shopping. Okay, identities when shopping. Okay. So again, make sure that in our configure services, we've got services add session. And then down here in our configure and above use endpoints, we have this here, app.use session. Okay. And let me update that note. Okay. So before URL mapping. Okay. And that's why it has to go in before this. Okay. So I'd like to actually build the cart page, and then we can scaffold it and make some changes to that once we've scaffolded this thing out. So in order to fetch the current cart, we've got to go into the cart method here and write some code in here. Okay. And what I think I'd like to do is actually put in all the comments first of the steps that we're going to take, and then fill in the code after that. And the first thing is fetch the current cart for display. Okay, and what's the next step? So the next step is to, in case user comes to cart page before adding anything, identify them first. Okay, what else do we have to do? The next thing is we have to query the database for this customer. And then finally, I want to pass the data to the view for display. Okay. So I'm going to initialize my customer ID. And I'll just initialize it to really nothing. Okay. Save that. So the next thing I need to do is this line here. I need to check the session. Okay, and notice this is a get string method. Okay, and let's see what's going on inside here. Because really, I think what we'd be looking at would be customer ID is going to be get customer ID, and that's the method call from earlier. Else, let's do an else. Okay. Else customer ID would be equal to http context.session dot get there it is, get string, and inside there it's going to be customer ID. Okay, so I want to make sure I've got the exact same spelling and a semicolon at the end. Okay. So the next thing I do want to do is just fetch the cart items from just this specific customer. Okay. And how do I want to do that? How am I going to write that code? Okay, so I'm going to actually put that one in here. And what I'm going to create is this cart items equals context.carts, where C with my lambda, C customer ID equals customer ID, and to list. Okay. So I definitely don't want everything in the cart table. I just want the stuff that's attached to our current user. Okay, and then lastly, I want to pass the data to the view for display. Okay, so let's put that in there. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. So just before I continue, I want to come back to this point. Okay, so this is really to deal with what happens if your customer leaves, right? And then they come back. Okay, so it says in case user comes to cart page before adding anything, you want to identify them. Okay, and so this is kind of handling that scenario a little bit. We don't need it right now, but we're going to need it in the very near future, probably in the next video. The last thing I want to do today in this video is create the store's cart view. Okay, so we're adding to the cart. But now let's go and look at the cart itself. And that's what I really want to add right now. So what I will do is I'm going to scaffold that. So the way I'm going to scaffold that is I'm going to go to my shop view. So I'm in views, shop. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say add a view. Now it gives me the option between a razor or an empty, and I don't want it to be empty. I want the actual razor view, and I'm going to select add. And this is why I wanted the actual razor view that was not empty. So this is going to be called cart, and the template that I want is actually going to be a list. Okay, and then the model class that I'm looking for is going to be cart. Okay, and this this stays the same here, and so does this down at the bottom. I want the layout. So make sure it's cart, your template is a list, and then your model is a cart again. Leave everything else the same and hit add, and it's going to scaffold out the next view that we want to look at. I've gone out to my main page, and you'll see here that I'm still logged in, or I am logged in as the admin. Okay, and I've got all my products and everything in there, all my different categories, my shop here, everything is all there. And now that I've done all that stuff, I want to tell you guys that I did actually have an issue, and I want to show you guys this because it's really, really important I can't stress this enough about the idea of errors and bugs and all that kind of stuff. I had this particular word right here spelled incorrectly for hours upon hours, and I was trying to solve this problem. So I remember posting a video saying that tutorial videos are a lie. Okay, and that's because when you're making these tutorials, you edit that stuff out. Well, guess what? I'm no exception. I had this word, I was missing the D here and here. And because I had actually copy and pasted that line, it filtered, or it rippled that entire error throughout my program. So always, if you can, copy and paste the word if you're using it in multiple locations, because even if you spell it wrong the very first time, you'll get that ripple effect, and it does it all throughout your code. So it actually doesn't break your code. So what, you spelled something wrong. But trying to find that error yesterday was a little bit mind-numbing and grueling. So anyway, what I wanted to say is that I did fix that bug, and I'm back in my site, and I'm going to show you what the end result of all of that stuff was anyway. So let's say I go to snack foods and beverage. I'm going to get, it looks like I'm getting a case here. Not that I even drink pop. I definitely drink eat sweet chili heat. So I'm going to get a couple bags of that. Do an add to cart. Okay, and you're seeing my customer ID, quantity 2, and that's the price, the date created. Right, so that's pretty good. Now, notice if I add to cart now, I don't have a back button or anything like that. I don't have this this set up yet. I don't have my edit set up or delete, and I'm not even sure that what I'm going to do with those yet. Anyway, notice I also, for my cart, I don't have like a total of all the products. I'm not calculating the quantity versus price, and I'm not doing a grand total or a subtotal or anything. So I still have a lot to do, but you know, I got a lot done on this video. There's a lot of things that we still need to clean up, and the next video, what I want to do is come back and clean up all that stuff and then start doing the payment gateway in Stripe. Okay, so we got a lot done, and what I want to do is just close it out for the rest of the video. Good luck if you're following along and doing this, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video, and you won't have too many complications. But first place to start, if you do, look at your spelling mistakes. Okay, and anyway, have a good week, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.